his fantasy and his hatred towards women.
The cult compound there went up in flames. It burned to the ground. 112 people inside, 17 of them children.
Beth was stabbed approximately 114 times. A lot of rage, a lot of anger.
Pagourtzis hid a shotgun and revolver under his trench coat when he entered the school that morning.
I was scared for my life.
It is just unspeakable evil.
She is evil. That is the face of evil.
Channel 2 News begins right now with a breaking news alert. It has now happened here. Our students, our teachers, our community, terrorized by a school shooter.
I was scared for my life. Nobody should go through this. Nobody should be able to feel that in school. This is a place where we're supposed to feel safe. This is somewhere we come most of the week. Nobody should have to go through this, and nobody should feel that pain.
The morning of May 18th, it was a happy day because it was the last Friday of the school year and everybody was in a good mood.
It was like 7:30 in the morning. I was looking forward to being off for the summer. I'm sitting in the office doing paperwork or whatever I was doing at the time. John Barnes, I'm the ex-Santa Fe ISD police officer that was at the shooting on May 18th, 2018.
I was talking in the hall to two of my other co-workers, Ann Perkins and Cynthia Tisdale, about the classes we had that day. That was the last conversation the three of us were ever going to have. I'm Flo Rice. I was a substitute teacher at Santa Fe High School for 4 years before the mass shooting in 2018.
I walk out from the offices in the middle of the hallway, and one of the ladies that worked there said something like, somebody said they heard something down near the art room at the end of the hall, and they said it sounded like gunfire, something to that effect. And so I don't hear anything. And as I'm going down the hall, the doors are shut, and the fire alarm starts going off, and that's why the doors had shut.
Ann and I were in the gym together with our classes when the fire alarm went off. And we thought it was strange. We had had a fire drill just the week before. What we did not know was that another substitute teacher saw the shooter in the hall, saw him with the gun. He tried to call 911 from the landline in his classroom, and it did not work. And this is something I knew other landlines in other classrooms. I had had trouble. They did not work. I couldn't call the office. He couldn't call the office. He couldn't call 911. And there was no cell phone reception in the room he was in.
The hallway was clear. There was no yelling or screaming. There was no gunshots. And so I'm going down the hall thinking, okay, the fire alarm is going off. When I opened those doors, what was odd to me is I smelled gunpowder. but I didn't hear a thing. And I thought, man, how can that be that I can smell gunpowder, but I don't hear any gunshots? It was a long hallway. And so in front of me, 30, 40 yards, whatever it was, all the kids started filing out in front of me, and they're all high-fiving and, you know, walking down the hallway acting like it's no big deal. I have my gun out. At this point, I had pulled my pistol out, but nobody saw that and wasn't paying attention to me. And they walk out in front of me, and I'm questioning, okay, if this is a shooting, why are these people in front of me that could have heard the shots before I did? Why are they acting like it's normal? So I'm waiting for that second piece of information to tell me this is a real shooting.
I looked down the hall, and Ann was a little ahead of me, and I was still calling the kids to come on when there was the most horrendous sound. I mean, it was just deafening. I had never heard anything like it. I felt it reverberate through my entire body. And there seemed to be a flash. I thought it was a bomb. I thought this whole sound had to be a bomb, the way I was shaken by it. And I felt like I couldn't see. I couldn't comprehend anything around me, but I knew the door was in front of me and I just needed to walk forward. And then I heard that same sound again. And so I thought it was another bomb because I felt myself being like thrown down, is what I thought. I was falling, and it was in slow motion. It was surreal. It was like what you see in a movie.
People in front of me, Flo and Perkins were in front of me, along with the students, and shots start ringing out. And I heard 2 shots. What I now know is more than 2, but at the time I thought it was 2. I heard 2 shots, boom, boom, and I see them get hit. I get on my radio and I say, I've got a loud noise, I got glass breaking, and I see Flo and Ann get hit, and I see them fall out of go out of the door there at the end of the hallway. So I can't see the shooter because it's an L-shaped hall there. But I know, obviously, it's coming from that hallway. So they get hit, all the students start running the other direction.
I hit the ground face first, and I was, I think, just kind of laying through the exit door. And then all of a sudden, the sound was gone. It was just the fire alarm going off. I looked around, and there's nobody. My kids are gone. There's no kids anywhere. But my friend Ann Perkins was laying a few feet ahead of me on the sidewalk, and she was laying across the sidewalk and facing away from me. So I was confused. I didn't know why she was laying there. And she looked okay, but I couldn't see her face. I tried to get up, and I couldn't get up. So I sat up and looked down and realized that my left leg was completely twisted. My foot was turned around, it was broken. And then I scanned up onto my legs and realized I had bloody bullet holes in my legs. When I realized I had been shot, there was someone hunting me, this fear was visceral.
In my mind, because I was thinking it was a rifle, you know, this is where you get into training, right? And the training says gain distance, right? Okay, the problem with that is when you're the first one on the scene, gaining distance might help you not get shot, but it doesn't help you put that guy down. I thought, okay, I need to try to make this as advantageous to me as possible so I can actually hit the guy. So I got right next to the corner of that because I was trying to use that as cover, that cement wall there. And I didn't know he had already heard me. I didn't know he knew I was coming. The video shows him posted. When I say posted, I mean the shotgun was posted on the door frame, right? And he was pointing at the corner. So he knew that I was coming around that corner. And I didn't know that, right? Had I known that, I wouldn't have done what I did because there's no way you're going to win that. And I thought, okay, as soon as I see him, I'll get a shot off and at least be able to hit him before he can shoot me, or hopefully miss if he does shoot me. As soon as my arm, because there's no safe way to do this. If you are putting a gun around a corner, you have to expose your arm. There's no way to hide your arm. And so I don't know if my head was completely over my gun or if I had it back a little bit like this, because I never saw him. So I'm like this, and I get hit. And I never saw him. I never saw, all I knew is I had a big hole in my arm. It was like someone had stuck a garden hose in my arm and turned on the faucet. It was just, I mean, on the video you could actually see blood shooting across and hitting the wall, because it hit the femoral artery, which is the main artery in your arm. It's just like the one in your leg and your neck. It's the main artery that runs through your body, which you can bleed out in minutes when something like that happens. The gun, of course, falls out of my hand. I start backing up immediately because I'm unarmed now, and I'm thinking this guy's gonna come around the corner any minute.
I was checking on duty I had a meeting in Galveston that morning, and I heard Santa Fe PD dispatching or radioing that there was an officer down at Santa Fe High School, basically sent help. And I self-dispatched, went en route. I was right around the area of 646 and 45 there. So I wasn't far away. And I got there as quick as I could. When I first arrived on scene, it appeared that most of the students and staff had self-evacuated. A lot of people lined up down Highway 6. Had another junior deputy that was basically brand new that had self-dispatched and showed up at the same time and said, "I'm going with you, Sarge." So I said, "Okay, just, go where I go and shoot where I shoot." Didn't know where any of this had occurred at in the school. There was nothing over my primary channel, being the sheriff's office channel, but I could hear on my scan from other agencies, shots fired still, and I don't hear anything. There's no students in the school. Where I'm at in the front part of the school, the fire alarm's going off. We proceeded to push further west to the first hallway, and of course the fire alarms had been pulled, so all the fire doors were shut. But I could hear voices, like a commotion on the other side of the doors, and didn't know what it was or who it was. Kind of took a low ready on the door, didn't know who was coming through, and the doors pushed open, and it was the constable, Jimmy Fullen, two deputies from the sheriff's office and one officer from Santa Fe PD. They were dragging John Barnes out of the hallway, and I was a medic, like I said, for 5 years. I know what a dead body looks like. He was dead at that point. When they drug him past me, he was dead or close to it.
I was getting ready for work. My phone rang. Had Chris's friend's name across the top. I thought he forgot his phone or forgot something, and I was like, "Hello?" The next words were, "Mama Stone, you need to get to the school. Chris was shot." I get in my car. I can't tell you about my drive there. I don't remember. But I do remember running up to the school, and I was almost there. And my leg locked up, like my calf, it turned into like a rock, and it made me fall. And people were picking me up, and I'm like, I need to get in there. They're saying that my son's shot. Next thing I know, they're taking me over to the old gym.
As I sat there, I just knew I had to get out of the door. So I looked around, and somehow my purse was right by me. I grabbed my phone, and I just decided I tried to drag myself and kind of scoot as best I could out of the doorway and around the corner, which was literally underneath a window, a line of windows where the shooter had shot. I started praying because I was so afraid he was going to shoot me again. And when I was young, I had lost my mother when I was young, so I didn't want to leave my girls. And so I just prayed for God to save me because I felt that they still needed me. I didn't call 911. I don't know why. It never occurred to me. I called Scott because I knew he would come get me. So I called him quickly, and he didn't answer the phone. I called again, and he answered the phone, and I told him I was shot, and I hung up because I was so afraid that the shooter was going to see me and see me moving.
So that day that she called me, I was still in bed because she goes to work, pretty early, and I didn't answer the first time. I didn't hear it, and she called back, and I answered it, and she says, "I've been shot," and hangs up. And I'm like, what kind of phone call is this? It's not something you hear every day. So, and then she calls back and tells me, "I've been shot and I'm in the parking lot." I'm like, okay. Then she hangs up again. So I get, as fast as I can, I get dressed, and our daughter's getting dressed to go to school, and what goes through my head is she may never see her mother alive again.
Scott answered. I tried to tell him where I was, and I would hang up again. And I could hear gunfire going off. So I did that 3 or 4 times, probably calling him and hanging up.
They are asking people to stay away from here.
Here you go, guys. More law enforcement driving in. Texas City Police SWAT team.
Santa Fe High School, a very active scene.
I heard the shots first, and then the alarms went off after I hid.
It was an officer running by me because I could, you could hear all the equipment on them, and I heard him run by, and I was gonna sit up, but then I heard on his walkie-talkie it said, "We don't have eyes on the shooter." So I just laid there and I didn't move.
I'm going as fast as I can down the highway, running red lights, and there's first responders going the same direction, and then they're slowing down, but I'm not slowing down, I'm passing them. So I was able to get there before them, and luckily before they locked down the campus, I was able to get in there. Well, she's calling me continuously and hanging up because she's laying on her phone in the grass next to the windows, trying to be as quiet as she can. And so I'm circling the school, and she calls me, and she's describing where she's at, and I recognize it, parked behind some dumpsters by the cafeteria. And I could hear the gunshots, and the whole time there I'm on the phone with her, I could hear the gunshots. So this went on, she laid there 15 or 20 minutes while they were still shooting going on.
Everybody's asking me all these questions. I don't know what's going on, and I just know that Chris would have called me by now. They put me in this room. They wouldn't let nobody come see me or talk to me.
I know I'm bleeding out. I mean, blood is still coming out of my arm even though that tourniquet's there. The guy comes up and says, "Get up." And I said, "Dude, I can't." He says, yeah, come on, get up. So they grab me and take me up, and I put my arms around them, and I walk about 10 feet out of the room, and I just collapse. I can't do anything. And so actually the blood on the floor was helping them drag me because it was making the floor slicker. And somebody finally grabs my duty rig, the back of my belt, and starts pulling me.
I start to take off running to her to get her, and they're screaming and yelling at me to get down, and that they're both dead. They just don't come. And so I'm having yelling back that she's not dead. That's my wife. I'm on the phone with her. She's alive.
Immediately, I just saw the blood path all the way down to the last hallway where the art rooms were. So naturally my instinct was just follow the trail. And as I'm pushing down the hallway, the first intersection is another hallway where I encountered a group of officers huddled down, holding long cover down that hallway. You know, the training part of me said, this is not what we do. You know, we don't do this. We go, we stop. We go to the shooting. You know, where the bullets are flying, that's where we go. It's our job. Between that point and getting there, one of the troopers had fired some rounds at the shooter.
I knew it would make the ambulance ride. And I said, I looked at the medic and I said, get me on that helicopter, I'm gonna die. And so at that point, she took a drill and drilled a hole, I think it was down here actually, to get an IV. They drill into your bone to get a IV started. And actually they drilled that, and then they drilled 2 more in each shoulder after they got me on the helicopter.
You technically died though.
Oh yeah, twice. My heart stopped in the helicopter, or when I was going to the helicopter, and my heart stopped between 4 and 5 minutes. And then it stopped again in the ER.
While I'm there to stop the killing, I don't know if there's killing going on, if that makes sense. So I have to assess, do I run in there and just blindly kill myself for no reason? You know, that doesn't, you know, is this tactically sound, right? Is it safe? No. Do I have a team? Do I have a stack? No, I don't. So at that point, you know, I pretty much was resolved with, I'm gonna die in this hallway, because you don't have to be accurate with a shotgun. And all you gotta do is just open the door, level it off, and squeeze the trigger. He just kept, you know, screaming and yelling at me and, you know, cursing me and shooting through the wall, shooting at the wall, shooting through the doors. And what seemed like a lifetime of doing that. And then a buddy of mine from League City PD showed up wearing basketball shoe. He was dropping off his kids at one of the local elementary schools in Santa Fe. He tapped up on me, and he's wearing basketball shorts, a t-shirt, and a plate carrier, and it's got his rifle slung. He's like, what do you got? And I said, man, thank God you're here, bro. I said, I feel better, you know. I was like, we can do this. And so we picked the first door. So made the announcement we were basically coming in to kill him. And as we approached the door, the other art room door that we weren't approaching opens up. Hands come out. So we don't know who he is. We don't know who it is. It's surrendering. It was him, though. That kid crawled to me and said, I didn't think I could do it. At least 3 times. I didn't think I could do it. So he crawled to me, grabbed hold of him, spun him around, patted him down, handcuffed him, and somebody else drug him off.
We got her in the car, and she was bleeding profusely, and she wouldn't have lasted long with the amount of blood she was losing. We went to the closest hospital that was a new one that had just opened up, and they quickly got her stabilized, got her leg in line, and pulled, you know, and did a lot of life-saving things for her at that moment, and got her stabilized.
And every time I talked to someone, I always asked them if somebody was dead, and they told me no. For 10 freaking hours, they told me no, until somebody came in and held my hand and told me otherwise. Went home empty-handed that day.
Kimberly was a Girl Scout, and you know, it's coming up on cookie season. She loved doing cookies. She made a little business out of it and wrote little thank you notes. And she loved to read. She loved cats. And she was a real goofy, sweet kid. I'm Rhonda Hart, and my daughter, Kimberly Vaughn, was one of the kids that was shot and killed at Santa Fe High School.
Chris was 17 years old. He was full of life. He was just now starting to date, you know. He was getting in that little dating scene. He loved his 2 sisters, and he was very much of a family boy. My name is Rosie Stone. I am Chris Stone's mom.
Thankfully, we know that she was one of the kids that was sitting there by the door, and she had her back turned, and so she didn't know what was going on. She was one of the first kids that was shot, and so yeah, she had no idea what was going on, which I'm very thankful for. Like, I know she didn't suffer.
He was at the door, and what I'm being told is that they struggled, and he tried to get in and couldn't, and that the killer took a step back, and he shot him through the door. He had 2 pellets that went to the side of his head, that's what ultimately took his life. The wounds to his chest and everything else, he could have survived that, but he didn't survive the pellets. He got awarded the Young Hero Congressional Medal of Honor Award for his role on May 18th. You know, and the other thing I always say about Chris is that, you know, at 17 years old, he was a man of his word because he stayed and helped. He was at the front of the classroom. My son could have ran out easily. He could have ran out, but he stayed and he helped. So I'm very proud of him.
I had to learn to walk again. I was in physical therapy for 2 years. I've had to change my lifestyle due to PTSD. I'm just not, it's challenging getting out and doing in crowds and doing the things I used to enjoy doing. I am forever sitting or outside the school looking at those bullet holes in my legs. Somehow that is in the back of my mind. I am always there. It just never goes away.
I had like 10 surgeries on my arm. I can't stretch it any further than this. I can't turn my hand over. That's as far as my hand will go. Still have, you know, numbness and stuff in my hand. I can't obviously lift heavy things with my arm. I can't stand any longer than 30 or 45 minutes because if my arm hangs down, it puts pressure on my elbow and it's very painful. So I just can't stand for long periods.
Angelique stays with me because I don't know why. Well, I know why. She was laying there and I'm checking her vitals and she's got her phone in her hand, clutching her phone. And it's ringing, Mom, nonstop. And I can't answer it, you know. I can't tell her mom that I'm with her. I can't tell her mom, you know, anything. Okay. So, you know, I was diagnosed with PTS and depression 2 years afterwards. This is not the first critical incident I've ever been exposed to. And it wasn't the last. I was involved in a shooting the following year in June of 19, where we had to put down a suspect, a barricaded subject. And so for all the years that I had done this, you know, I thought I was immune to, you know, death. Death was just like tying your shoes. Doesn't bother me until it did.
My name is Nicholas Pale. I am the lead defense counsel for Dimitrios Pagourtzis.
Do you speak to him?
I do.
I know there's attorney-client privilege, but what are those conversations like?
There are ones that would probably seem fairly normal, and there are ones that are anything but, and there's everything in between those two extremes.
Is he hallucinating?
He does experience hallucinations, yes. He experiences a persistent delusional scheme. He does not live in the same reality that the rest of us do.
What is his reality?
It is a very confused and inconsistent mess. And that's about as far as I can go with that.
What is his day like?
His day consists of classes that are designed to help achieve restoration to competency, classes in terms of educating him on who the players are in the system, the roles of the judge, the prosecutor, the defense attorney, witnesses, things like that. Understanding kind of a threshold level of the legal system so that, again, the whole idea behind competency is he's able to assist in his defense and make rational decisions with the advice of counsel, of course. He has classes. He undergoes regular therapy, group, individual. He is on a wide variety of medications to combat his psychosis. Unfortunately, his condition is such that his mental illness is very severe. His psychosis is very persistent.
Can you say what he's been technically diagnosed with?
I don't think I can in this setting, but I think that it is possible that in the very near future we'll have a hearing where some of those details are going to come out. We believe we're at the stage where it's going to take some radical new approach or the equivalent of a miracle. The defense team, the prosecutors, and the judge made a trip to Vernon last summer to meet with the staff, meet with his treatment team, try to get a better understanding. Okay, you know, we're coming up on 5 years of commitment. Where are we? What's left to do? What's left to try? And what we learned was that they have exhausted most of the usual remedies in terms of medication and the treatments that are normally available in that setting. There are some other possibilities. We're talking about cognitive behavioral therapy.
And he's not getting that there?
He is not getting that there. And to be clear, that is in and of itself not a guaranteed fix. The doctors who believe that it might help him were very clear to say it has an equal chance of making him worse. But it's one of the next cards to try to play to see if it gives him some more progress.
But the doctors they're not at the point saying we're out of options. We've done everything we can.
They are not.
Would he have to go to a different facility to get this specialized treatment?
I don't know the answer to that. It's certainly a possible outcome if they're not able to provide it in his current setting at Vernon, but that there's still a lot of options they're exploring for trying to do that, including bringing somebody in under contract on a remote basis, doing it via telemedicine or something like that.
What bothers me the most about this issue with his competency is that when he was arrested, he was competent. He was communicating. He was in the county jail for, 17 months before he was found incompetent. He was taken in and federal charges were filed on him. So he was competent at that point, and then 4 months later, he's not.
I'm not no one to tell you how to do your job, but from a person standing out here and looking in, it wasn't handled right.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you take someone that just murdered, slaughtered 10 people, injured 13 to 14 people, and then you're going to put them in solitary confinement.
It's a natural enough conclusion to draw. I think it's important to note He was in solitary for a very short time. In terms of, and when I say solitary, I'm talking about the very, very small holding cells that are meant for temporary use, not permanent. Within a couple of weeks, he was moved to a unit where he was isolated from everybody else. But he was not alone. He had there were jail personnel that were in that pod, if you will, with him, and so he was not completely isolated. I am not in a position to say that the jail made him worse. It is perfectly feasible to believe that the natural progression of his disease made him worse. He was clearly, from day one, very mentally ill. That was never in dispute. He did see psychiatric staff at the jail, and he did at one point, and there was some treatment involved in that, yes. The exact details of that treatment I can't get into.
But yet he still spiraled to a state of incompetency.
That's mental illness. He is severely mentally ill. He had a delusional scheme that played the sole role in driving him to do this.
What was that scheme?
Again, I can't get into the delusional scheme, but he believed that this had to be done, that he was being forced to do this.
But not by any...
Not by
But
any...
no evidence that it was from an outside influence?
Not a real one.
A big group of us from here got together and went to support it, and we went around to every office we could that would hear us, and we got the bill passed. So this is a big win.
It's not fair and it's inhumane to keep prolonging this trauma for me and the other families.
Testimony before the Senate Criminal Justice Committee was gut-wrenching.
It's heartbreaking. You have to live with the fact that you lost your child, and then you have to live with the fact that, I'm sorry, I can't tell you anything about it.
Families of those killed and wounded at Santa Fe High School say they are desperate for answers that remain out of reach. The case has not gone to trial because the charged gunman remains incompetent. That means evidence, like autopsy reports and video of the police response, is being kept confidential.
While this legislative body cannot undo the tragedy and reasons for our sorrow, you can help reduce the trauma that plagues our hearts and souls.
Senate Bill 435 would allow families to see medical examiners' reports and video evidence, but prohibits any recording of the information.
Because our shooter didn't die on scene, and he was in that hamster wheel of not being well enough to withstand trial, and that meant that the information wouldn't come out until it was in trial. And so we just kept going around and around in this circle. Because I'm her mom, I'm not allowed to read the official report. So how is that fair?
I'm Chris's mom. Nothing should be withheld from me. Not for myself or any parent. Yes, I lost my son in a school shooting, but that doesn't give somebody the right to trump my parent, that I'm the parent. Nobody should trump me. We got to see it. I got to see my son's autopsy report. I got to see some of those videos, not everything I wanted to see, but most of it. Yeah. Everything they told me I couldn't have, I got. Yeah. And so that's why I refuse to give up hope that there's justice down the road. I believe it. It may take a while, but I'm not gonna give up.
You were prohibited from speaking publicly about video. You were
Yeah.
both required to sign
Yeah, we have an
non-disclosures.
NDA.
For now.
For now.
I'm not going to see the video. She doesn't want me to see it.
I don't want to see myself shot, and I feel I was there, and I feel like watching that again would just be too much for me.
But for me, the reason I haven't seen it is because I can still talk about it, because I haven't signed a non-disclosure agreement saying that I won't discuss it. So I can say whatever I want. And that's the reason, biggest reason for me is to say that I'm not going to be limited by what I say and what I talk about.
You met with the governor, right?
Yes.
Several times.
What did he tell you would be done?
Well, we wanted the commission because Parkland had happened before our shooting, and they had a very comprehensive commission formed, which had people from the government, had parents on it, had officers on it, had all kinds of experts on it, and they did a complete evaluation of what the failures were leading up to the shooting and afterwards.
You were promised that there would be this big root cause
third-party investigation
analysis of what happened.
Right. And it's never happened. Not a criminal investigation. You know, we already know who did it. We already know who died and who was wounded, but where the failures were, what can we learn from this, and what can we do to keep this from happening again?
I wrote to Greg Abbott's office and I was like, hey, could you launch an independent third-party investigation? And they wrote me back and said that that wasn't inside of the scope of his office, that wasn't on his agenda to launch a third-party investigation into Santa Fe. And I was like, what? Like, that's literally your job, right? To investigate why kids died.
What I'm trying to prevent, what we're all trying to prevent, what we've been trying to prevent is to make this harder for another school shooting to happen. We have to learn from our mistakes. I don't think that they're learning anything. All that they give us is thoughts and prayers, sweep it under the rug, and let's move on to the next school shooting.
For those parents who still have questions about could something have gone differently that day, how do you respond to that?
I don't know how they could have responded any better than what they did. I really don't.
Ruben Espinoza became the chief of the Santa Fe ISD Police Department after the shootings. He did respond that day, though, when he was still with the Texas Department of Public Safety, and he studied the response in the 5 years since.
Tactical-wise, it's a bad situation. I worked narcotics 26 years, and that situation was a bad deal.
Espinoza says ISD police officers Gary Forward and John Barnes were on campus when the shooting started and immediately raced to confront the gunman. Barnes nearly lost his life when a shotgun blast shredded an artery in his arm. Forward applied a life-saving tourniquet. The ensuing police response kept the gunman pinned in the art room while students evacuated.
That was a bad situation, and where the shooter was propped up waiting for them to turn that corner.
Espinoza also ran us through the security enhancement to Santa Fe campuses since the shooting. Active shooter buttons placed throughout the schools can now help police pinpoint a gunman's location faster than officers following the sounds of gunshots and screams. Active shooter buttons on wireless microphones worn by teachers further triangulate areas of danger. There are metal detectors, and vestibules at school entrances keep visitors out unless cleared by staff. Campus security assistants also are constantly watching for trouble through an extensive network of cameras in the district.
We take an incident and we learn from it, and we try to do better in any situation.
What happened on the 18th, trial or no trial, the damage is done. A trial is not going to change that. It makes me obviously very angry. It makes me angry because I wanted to put that guy down. And I didn't do it.
You know, deep down, I think everybody wants to see a trial, right? That's our end goal. But maybe I'm just cynical, jaded. I don't think we're ever gonna see a trial because he's gonna continue to just be incompetent, for the rest of his life. My hope, if we don't get a trial, is that maybe he would like choke on his vomit at some point. Just pass away of natural causes.
It's always hanging, it's out there, hanging over your head. It is just out there. There's been no resolution. And there's a possibility you could go to trial, maybe not. I mean, you're just on this constant roller coaster.
I believe that a trial is also needed for my son. I think that my son needs closure. I think all 10 need closure. I think our survivors need closure, and I think Santa Fe needs closure. I'm lost, and not having no justice, it makes it worse. Having unanswered questions makes it worse, and nobody understands this until you walk in our shoes.